Good morning.
My name is Jeff Glauber, an 18-year resident of Buckingham Township. What I'm saying, speaking to today, is directed specifically at Jean DiGirolamo, Commissioner. I live near land that you own in Buckingham Township, and I represent the group No Buckingham Warehouse. We know that you're 50% owner of this land, large tract, along with your uncle, Mayor Joseph DiGirolamo of Bensalem, and his wife, Mary. Your submitted development plans for your land call for the construction of a 150,000 square foot distribution center with 30 cross-dock truck bays and an expected 90 18-wheeler truck trips per day. Your proposal is unsafe and inappropriate for the small roads that surround your land. Never mind the countless number of homes that will be built far too close to. It will destroy our neighborhoods and create a significant road safety risk to residents. In your November 2nd, 2003 Patch.com candidate profile, you, Eugene DiGirolamo, stated you were running for re-election, and I quote, "Keeping Bucks County a wonderful place to live, work, and raise our families is and always will be my highest priority. We can do this in many ways, including preserving our open space, farmland, making sure that the services the county provides are nothing short of exceptional, and protecting our most vulnerable citizens." The specific type of development that you're proposing here is in direct conflict to your stated position. While yes, your land is zoned industrial, PI2, Planned Industrial 2, the specific plan that you have presented to the town of Buckingham to develop your land is unacceptable to Buckingham and surrounding neighbors and residents. We have filled the Buckingham Town Hall with those in opposition and are prepared to continue to do so. As stated, we are not questioning the zoning designation. We ask at the same time that you immediately withdraw the specific end use from consideration. Within this classification of zoning, there are plenty of options, okay? From office park, outpatient surgical facility, research park, medical offices, countless others, acceptable uses that would not receive the opposition from neighbors. We have sent you a letter on March 29th, 2024, along with a follow-up in the last couple weeks. We requested an in-person meeting. Those outreaches have gone unresponded to. Will you accept a meeting to hear resident and constituent concerns about your proposal? And if not, why not? There are quite a few people here behind me today that also share my concern, and there are thousands of others in the community.
Thank you. Susan Johnson.
Hi, my name is Susan Johnson, and thank you for the opportunity to be here today and talk with you. I live in Central Bucks County, and I came here today to talk about the proposed industrial warehouse project. The burden, both environmental and financial, this warehouse project will put on the backs of Buckingham and Plumstead citizens is heavy. Very heavy. In addition, this project will generate major safety issues. Although the township will have final say on this project, I believe this is also a county issue because, number one, the county planning department will be involved in reviewing this project for compliance with county rules. And number two, a county commissioner is intimately involved in this project as he is the seller of the land. A county commissioner wields considerable power in this environment, both public and private power. Therefore, it would seem reasonable to expect this county commissioner to engage in dialogue with interested constituents. It would be respectful. Thank you.
Joanne Amorosa. Joanne Amorosa.
Good morning. My name is Joanne Amoroso. I am a 24-year resident of Buckingham Township, and I'd like to address Mr. Gene DiGirolamo. Mr. DiGirolamo, in 2019, on the website Conservation Voters of PA, conservationpa.org, your platform stated, Gene has committed to preserving farmland, encouraging renewable energy, and eliminating plastic checkout bags if he's elected to the county commissioner. On January 3rd, 2020, a PhillyBurbs.com interview regarding casting votes in legislature, Mr. Girolamo said, "I always thought your conscience was the most important thing." November 2nd, 2023, in the Patch, when asked, "Why are you running for office?" Gene DiGirolamo stated, "We are so fortunate to call Bucks County our home. Keeping Bucks County a wonderful place to live, work, and raise our families is and always will be my highest priority. We can do this in many ways, including preservation of our open space and farmland, and making sure that the services the county provides are nothing short of exceptional, and protecting our most vulnerable citizens." Mr. DiGirolamo further stated that the ability to find common ground without compromising my core principles allowed me to deliver real results. So I stand before you now, Mr. DiGirolamo, and ask, what happened to your conscience, your concerns, and your principles regarding the proposed 150,000 square foot warehouse in Buckingham Township and the DiGirolamo tract that you own along with your uncle, the mayor of Bensalem? Did you forget your pledge to keep your constituents safe? Or are you exempt from these ideals you campaigned on because $5.5 million in your pocket is more important than the promises you made as a community? Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a few comments about the farm in Buckingham. There's not a whole lot I can say because the property is under agreement of sale. But I would like to make a few comments about my family. When I was sworn in back here at the beginning of January, much of my comments focused on my grandfather, who immigrated over here to America back in 1912, landed in Philadelphia, settled there. My grandmother, whose maiden name was Formica, also came over the same year. And they ended up getting married in 1920. My grandfather started working on a farm in Northeast Philadelphia. My dad was born shortly after they got married. They moved to a small piece of property in the early 1920s on the grounds where Holy Family University is in Northeast Philly. There's a little road in the back there. It's called Stevenson Lane. And there was a little, very little, as I was told, house, and they rented the property, and my grandfather started farming. About the mid-1920s, he moved to a farm, if you can believe it, and again, he didn't have enough money to buy it. He rented it. It was on the Roosevelt Boulevard and Grand Avenue, if you can imagine a farm being there. And again, him and my grandmother farmed the ground. They made a living, barely, from what I was told. And then the Depression hit, 1929, which was a hard time for everyone. Farming at that time happened to be something that was good to be in. So my grandfather was able to save enough money because people had to eat, and the crops he was growing were bringing good money. And he bought in the early 1930s, he put a deposit down on a farm in Bensalem, right along the Delaware River, on Dunks Ferry Road. It's actually right across the street from the Chamonix State Park. It was a farm of about 25 acres, and him and my uncle, some other family members, built a very nice house on the property, right on the river. The house is still there today. It's part of a business. I was born, when my parents got married in 1949, I was born in 1950, and we moved into the house with my grandparents. And the crops that we grew back then were much the same as the crops that we grew when we were farming years later. I mean, it was all vegetable crops like spinach and cabbage and parsley and parsnips and turnips. Those are the crops that we grew. The one thing that I remember when I was a little boy, during the winter we struggled a lot because there was no income coming in from the farm. I can remember my dad getting in, and we had one truck at that time, and he would drive up to the upper part of the county, Upper Bucks. I went with him a couple times. And he would go to the chicken farms and load chicken manure, fill the truck up with chicken manure, and bring it back to our farm because chicken manure was really, really good fertilizer. And he would bring it back, and the next day he would shovel the chicken manure on wagons. I couldn't help him. I wanted to help, but I was just too small. And then he'd spend that day out and go spread the chicken manure out in the fields for the coming spring because it was really good fertilizer, and plus it saved a lot of money. And then the next day he would go back up in the upper part of the county and do the same thing again. In 1970, my grandfather sold that farm, and we moved to another farm on Humeville Road in Bensalem. We continued to grow. We opened a farm market there and sold a lot of the produce that we grew on the farm in the farm market. And we started to expand and get a little bit bigger. And the farm in Buckingham, I mean, we had bought another farm first on Mechanicsville Road. But the farm that you're talking about in Buckingham, I think we purchased in the early 1980s, so it's been over 40 years. I think I see you shaking your head. I'm not quite sure what year that was. And we worked that farm, and we grew, and at that time we were farming about 500 acres. And those 500 acres were a lot more than 500 acres because much of the crops that we grew, we doubled and triple cropped. And none of it was harvested by machine. It was all hand harvested. I mean, spinach, we grew a lot of kale as well, the cabbage. You had to go out into the field actually, and we had these knives, and you would cut the vegetables with the knives. And then we would bring it back to our pack house in Bensalem and ice it and wash it down and ship it to the markets, mainly in Philadelphia. We went a lot up to Hunts Point, sold a lot of produce down in Vineland, New Jersey, which is one of the biggest, and I still think today, hubs for vegetables for the East Coast. And we worked really hard, 7 days a week. Most of the time, 10, 12, 14 hours a day we worked. And there just came a time when the stuff we were growing, the price for it was going down. There wasn't a really market for a lot of those fresh vegetables anymore and what we could grow. And so the family had to make a decision on whether we were going to continue farming or not. And that was about 25 years ago, I guess, or so. And we decided to stop farming. We kept the road stand. And since that time, we've been renting the farm out, as probably you all know, to another farmer who has continued to farm it. I just thought it was important for you to know that about my family. I'm very proud of my family. Maybe that's not going to make a difference to you. And again, I can't really talk about what's going on with the farm because of the agreement of sale. But it was important for me to let you know that about my family. So that's all I'd like to say, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. So moving to the